Hello there, welcome back to Last Recaps. Before going into the video, please do subscribe and click on the bell icon for more interesting movie recaps. Today I am going to tell an American crime drama movie called The Drop, released in the year 2014. In Brooklyn, money circulates overnight, but it has to go somewhere. Not money that can be deposited in the bank. Mob bosses randomly choose a bar every night to act as a vault for the entire city. Bob is a bartender at one of these bars. He is a humble man who does his job, goes to church on Sundays and never takes communion. When he got home late, he heard howling and found a pit bull in the trash. Curious as to why he had entered the street, Nadia took a photo of his ID before helping him. Together they patch him up. Bob agrees to come back in a few days to take the dog. Outside the bar, two brothers plan a robbery knowing full well that it's a drop bar that can get them into big trouble with the mafia. They proceed and enter the bar masked and armed. Marv, Bob's cousin, warns them that this is a bad idea, but they still demand the money, and he gives it to them. During the robbery, Bob notices that one of the gunmen has a broken watch, and because they beat the bouncer to a pulp, an ambulance has to be called, which also involves the police. Detective Torres shows up to investigate the case, and Bob slips out that one of them had a broken watch. He also knows that the bar is involved with the mafia but does not question it too much. This really upsets Marv, who knows the mob will be pissed. They were robbed of $5,000, and he assures Bob that the Chechen mob who own the bar wants the money back. The next day, Bob picks up the dog and confesses to Nadia that he doesn't know how to take care of it. Together they go to the pet store to buy supplies. They also make a name tag for him. Bob names him Rocco. All the time they are spied on. Chavka, the face of the Chechen mafia, shows up and reveals that he has captured one of the men responsible for the robbery. The man is gagged and impaled to the van floor with his right foot. Chavka asks if Marv and Bob know this man. They both say no. Chavka, like Marv said, was not pleased when he read the police report that mentioned the broken watch. He lets it slide, but tells Marv to find the money. Marv freaks out because if he knew how to find the money, that would mean he had something to do with the robbery. Marv meets with one of the robbers and reveals that he is in on it after all. He is angry because they beat up the bouncer so badly that he needed an ambulance, so the police got involved. He explains the situation with the broken watch and instructs him to get rid of it ASAP. Nadia approaches Bob while he is awkwardly walking the dog and suggests that she can dog sit Rocco for a little extra money. He agrees and awkwardly gets her number. Marv lives with his sister Dottie. Dottie tells Marv that a collection agency has called because they have to pay for their dad's life support. She suggests that maybe it's time to let him go. Marv strongly disagrees, noting that he will get the money. Bob is out in a park with his newfound friend. When Nadia leaves, a random guy, Eric, compliments his dog. The encounter strikes him as odd, especially when he tells him not to forget to feed it. Eric later shows up at Bob's house and welcomes himself inside. He claims the dog is his and shows the registration papers, which show that the dog is chipped. He wants it back, but Bob will not let him abuse the dog any further. So Eric yoinks Bob's umbrella and sees himself out. On his way to the bar, Marv is stopped by a man asking for directions. He is startled because something about the man is suspicious. He tells Bob that there is something fishy between Eric and the man asking for directions. When they go outside to pick up the trash, they find a bag tied to the fence. Inside the bag is a severed arm with the broken watch and all the money from the robbery. Bob casually wraps the arm, and Marv is unsettled by how nonchalant Bob is about it. When Eric enters the bar, he almost sees it, but Bob reacts quickly. Marv escorts Eric out. On his way, Eric shouts to give his regards to Nadia. Marv warns Bob to stay away from the guy. He has killed people before. Marv's nerves slowly begin to fail him. Bob takes a walk to the canal with the dog, and after throwing the arm in the water, Detective Torres immediately shows up. He is suspicious of why Bob is there with an empty bag, but doesn't question it further. Torres wonders if Bob knows Eric, to which she replies not really. Meanwhile, Marv washes the robbery money. Nadia is a little upset that Bob didn't let her know that he was taking Rocco to work. He asks her if she knows Eric, whereupon she freaks out and storms off. The Chechens show up at the bar and Bob returns the money. They tell Marv that his bar will be the drop bar on the night of the Super Bowl, which makes them very nervous. Later, Nadia apologizes and confesses that she and Eric used to date. She also warns Bob that Eric is crazy and says he has killed a kid from a long time ago. Bob says he heard. They talk about each other more and grow closer. Marv finds the other robber and asks him to get into the car. The robber doesn't want to because the last time he saw his brother was when someone else told him to get in a car. He wants to make sure Marv didn't line the trunk with plastic. Marv opens it and everything is fine. The robber gets in and they go for a ride. Marv tells him they'll rob the place again during the night of the Super Bowl, but the robber refuses. The trunk pops open again, and Marv tells the guy to get out and slam it shut. When he does, Marv runs him over and kills him, then runs off and drives off in another car. After their beer drinking, Bob walks her home. After returning to his place, he finds the umbrella that Eric had taken from him. He has been in his house. Shortly thereafter, Marv approaches Eric in a cafe, gives him a beer and wonders as to why he doesn't like his cousin. It turns out that he doesn't care for the dog but thinks that Bob messed with him somehow and that he needs to learn a lesson. Marv says that there's a way they can fix this and both be happy. Torres gets a cop friend to show him Eric's psych file. Something in the file arouses his interest. Bob goes to ask Eric to back off and tells him that he will not return the dog. Eric says he can keep the dog if he can get him $10,000 by tomorrow 10 a.m. Otherwise he will get it back and smash its head. Bob is left speechless. He visits Marv and asks him if he plans to do something desperate that they can't clean up this time. He feels something is fishy here, because Marv has told him he won't be working on Super Bowl day, the busiest day of the year. Marv yells at him and tells him that he used to be feared and respected, but lost that when he lost the bar to the Chechens. He also knows that Bob letting the old lady sit on his old stool is a slap in his face. Bob says it's just a stool. That's all it is. It doesn't mean anything. The next day he takes the money for the dog and waits for Eric. He doesn't show up at the appointed time, so he has no choice but to take the dog to his bar. He puts a gun and the money under the counter. It is the day of the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, Eric breaks into Nadia's house and makes himself at home. When she arrives, she begs him to leave, but he forces her to sit down and obey his orders. He tells her that they'll do something fun tonight, and that they'll leave the town afterwards. Terrified, she has no other choice. The bar is filling up with people as he notices Eric coming in with Nadia. They make eye contact, and he senses something is wrong. Eric goes to order drinks. Bob asks him why he did not come in this morning, and why he brought Nadia, to which he replies that she is his girl. He asks for the papers on the dog, and says he will pay him if he keeps up his end of the bargain. Eric leaves to take a call. The call is from Marv, who is angry at him for showing up too early at the bar, and warns him not to underestimate Meek Bob. He lines his trunk with plastic and heads to the bar, parking a block and a half away. Various mobsters drop off money as the night progresses. Eventually, the bar empties except for Eric and Nadia. Eric shows Nadia that he has a gun, then goes outside to smoke. Nadia cries and warns Bob that Eric plans to shoot him. Eric comes back in and Bob hands him the money for the dog. Eric asks how much for Nadia and says he'd rather have the money in the safe. Bob says he cannot do that and tells him the story about the dead kid Eric claims to have killed. Marv had a terrible gambling problem when he was a loan shark. A lot of people owed him money. The kid was one of those people, but the kid won a bunch of money at the casino and paid Marv back. But it wasn't enough to pay off Marv's debt, so no one could know that the kid had paid anything at all. Bob found the kid and shot him twice in the face. He explains in detail how he disposed of the body with lye in an oil tank. If he killed the kid, how come Eric is running around claiming to have done it himself? As Eric begins to answer, Bob shoots him twice in the face. He tells Nadia that she is safe now and can leave. She cannot believe he trusts her not to tell anyone about the shooting. Frightened, she runs out. Marv sees her and suspects something is wrong, so he calls Eric's phone. Bob answers and they both remain silent, knowing what happened and who is on the other end of the line. Chechens come and dispose of Eric's body. Chavka tells Bob to rename the place Bob's Bar. Bob says he is just a bartender, but Chavka tells him he is the new Marv. Outside, Marv sees the man who asked for directions earlier coming toward his car. He knows what's coming next. The man shoots Marv in the head. Torres comes to investigate. Marv is dead and Eric has disappeared. Bob is not surprised because that's the kind of neighborhood it is. Torres said that he could not have killed the child because Eric was in a psychiatric ward at the time, and he did it for street cred. She is about to leave, but stays behind and leans into Bob's ear to whisper. Bob takes Rocco to Nadia's house so he can apologize for spending the night at the bar. In the front yard, he explains that this is not his true self. He asks her if they can hang out. He thinks for a moment, then says, "Let me take off your jacket." That's all from the video. I hope you liked it. If you liked this video, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, if you want exclusive movie recaps from different genres, like and share this video. Go ahead. It's free. Thank you for watching.